Greetings, educators. So, you just finished your mini lesson in which the students came to the carpet. You presented a child-friendly standard vocabulary words that will help them understand what they are about to learn this week. You have read your read aloud book where you have modeled fluency as well as modeled for the students how to think aloud so they'll know how to think while they read. You have even used your chart paper to help you re-emphasize what they are learning and what they should think about. For example, if you're comparing and contrasting characters in a story, maybe after or during your read aloud, you create a Venn diagram on your chart paper to show them visually this is, comparing and this is contrasting two characters. Okay, the students have been excused to their seats, maybe one at a time, classroom management purposes. They are now whisper reading at their seats. You have moved to your kidney table and you're about to call a reading group. What do you do? Well, first, what you should do is make sure the students know that when you call them to your table, they need to have their reading book bag full of books from the classroom library with them. They also need their reading journal and a pencil. Their reading journal is needed because maybe you want them to take a note or two on what you're working with them more one-on-one in this week's lesson. Or maybe you want them to add a reading goal to help them become a better reader after you've listened to them read one-on-one in a running record. Talk about that more later. Okay, so now the students have come to the table. You also want them to know that when they come to the table, they are not to come to the table sitting down and staring at you, waiting for you to tell them what to do next. They should come to the table with their Just Right book or with their Open Court Phonics Wygotsky book that comes attached to different phonics lessons that you have printed out and copied for them. Come with something to read. And they are to whisper read quietly to themselves until you, the educator, stops them. You don't want them to finish a book and then yell out, "I'm done," and sit there and stare at you. No, you keep reading that book over and over again until I stop you. Okay? While they're reading that book over and over again at the kidney table with you, you are over to the side getting their flashcards together and passing out a stack of 5 to 6 flashcards each for each student. Now, let's talk about those flashcards. At the beginning of the school year, you listened to each student read a either Dolch sight word list or a Fry sight word list. You highlighted the words that the students stumbled on or did not know or could not pronounce correctly, and you wrote those highlighted words, one word, to one flashcard, which is just an index card. Okay? You want to create about 5 or 6 cards per student so that when they come to you in a small guided reading group at your kidney table, they will have that 5 or 6 stack of index card sight words that they need to work on, and it's individualized just for them. You're listening to them read these sight words, whisper read these sight words. You might even tap them in and say, "Johnny, can you read a little bit louder? Let me hear you read these sight words." Now, if Johnny says a sight word or two correctly for at least a week or two, then you can say, "You know what, Johnny? I think this sight word needs to be retired. You can take it home or keep it at your seat or throw it away." Give them a choice. Let them know that, hey, you've got this. Now, when they retire a sight word or you tell them to retire a sight word because they've got it, then make a new sight word to put in its place that was highlighted on their individual sight word list or inventory that you gave at the beginning of the year. Trust me, you will love this method because by the end of the year, they will know all of their sight words, maybe even before the end of the year. So now that they're practicing their reading, you stop them and say, okay, boys and girls, please stop reading your Just Right book or your phonics book, and you will see your flashcards are in front of you. Please read those flashcards over and over again until I stop you. And then that gives you a few more minutes to breathe and make sure everything is together. And they are practicing, and you are listening, and you are pulling out a card if need be, or maybe not. It's up to you that day. Once they've practiced their sight words at least 2 or 3 times, then you stop the group from reading. Hold up a book that they are about to read. Now, you don't want to pass out your guided reading books, which are 4 to 6 copies of the same book yet, because if you pass out your books now, they're going to get distracted. They're going to look at the pictures in the book. They're going to do whatever. Their mind's going to go off into another land. And this is the most important part of guided reading. You're about to introduce the book that they're going to read, and they need to have your undivided attention. So you're just going to hold up one book. Let's say it's The Little Red Hen. You're going to show them the title of the book, show them the cover, tell them the name of the book, give them a sentence summary of the book, and then have them turn and talk, making a self-to-text connection with that book. So it would sound something like this. Today, boys and girls, we're going to read this book, The Little Red Hen. It's about a hen who wants to make something, and her animal friends won't help her. Please turn and talk to your neighbor about a time that you wanted to do or make something, and your friends would not help you. Something like that. That way, it gets the child ready to read the book, maybe gets them a little more invested in the book. After that, you still don't want to pass out the individual books yet. You want to take a book walk, though, with your students, with that one book that you have in your hand. So if it's a picture book, you would want to look at the pictures, look at the title again, talk about the title page, look at the pictures in the book. Ask the students, look at this picture. Who do you see? What do you think is going to happen on this page? And they can either answer aloud or maybe think in their mind. It's up to you as the teacher. Let's say that this is a higher level group, a higher level reading text. There aren't pictures in this text. In that instance, talk about the title, talk about maybe the one picture that's on the cover, talk about the title page, go over the table of contents, make some predictions about what the book is going to be about based on the table of contents, or what do you think is happening in this chapter with this name or this title. Maybe there's a summary on the back of the book if it's a chapter book that explains the book. Read the summary to the students. Get the students ready to read. Get their frame of reference ready for this text. The next thing you want to do before you pass out the individual student books is to present 3 to 5 possibly challenging vocabulary words that they will encounter within this particular setting or this lesson for today and today only. So these vocabulary words or challenging words may be phonetically challenging, or the meaning might be challenging for these students, for your group of students that are sitting in front of you at this time. Again, you want to pick words that are not challenging for the sake of being challenging, but words that also back up what you're going to teach that day. So if this is a word that will also enhance your lesson for that day, then that is definitely a word that you want to present to the students if the students have no frame of reference for this word. Now you might say, well, I've picked out 5 words and I'm only on page 6. Now what? I haven't gone through the whole book. Well, keep in mind that guided reading is not for teaching books. It's guided reading is for teaching a skill, fluency, comprehension, and the book is the tool that you use to teach that skill. Okay, so it's okay if you don't finish the whole book within a guided reading session. All right, so you might find the first 5 vocabulary words on the first 4 pages. which means that your guided reading lesson probably needs to stop on page 4 for that day. Okay, so it won't have too many challenging vocabulary words in one setting. We want to make sure that the students understand and have a grasp of what's going on in your lesson that day. You also want to present words or punctuation patterns used in the text. So let's say you have an easy book and they repeat the same words kind of over and over again every page or so. You want to present that to the students and make sure the students know what that word pattern means. Or maybe there's a punctuation pattern. Maybe you have 3 dots. You want to explain to the students what that means, how your voice should sound when you read this. Or maybe there's a word with all capital letters, or it's an italicized word. What should your voice sound like when you come to a word that looks like this? Because we're going to see this type of a word in today's session. Okay, another thing you want to do is set a purpose for reading the book. Okay, so let's say you have a little red hen. All right, boys and girls, remember, we're reading the Little Red Hen today. I want you to read and think about or read to find out what the little red hen does when she finishes making her bread. Does she share with her friends, or does she keep the bread to herself and not share it? If these are older students or maybe higher reading level students, they can make up their own purpose for reading the book. They can come up with their own question based on the title, table of contents, vocabulary words, word patterns. Okay, that's another way that they can become invested in the book for that day. All right, now let's say you're only reading 4 or 5 pages in the guided reading session today. So you're also, before you pass out the individual books, you're letting the students know, okay, boys and girls, we're stopping on page 5 today. Please take a sticky note, a piece of tape that's colored, whatever. Mark this page because I don't want you to go past this page. When you get to page 5, go start back over at the beginning of the book, okay, and read it again until I stop you, or something like that. Now you're ready to pass out individual textbooks to each of the students. Again, these are 4 to 6 copies of the same book for each student, okay? Now, of course, in a perfect world, your guided reading group would all be composed of students on the same reading level, 4 to 6 students that are all level H, let's say. But in the real world, you're going to have many different levels of students in your room, and they're not going to neatly fit in 4 to 6 student groups. So you might combine your H and I students to create a group of 4 to 6 students. In that instance, you would choose a leveled book that would be level I to challenge the level H students, or maybe level J. Because you're going to be there supporting the students, it's okay to go a little bit above their reading level. Now, when they're reading on their own without anyone helping them, that's when they need to be closer to their level. But with you there, you can challenge them a bit. So now they all have their individual books that are also within their interest level. So at the beginning of the year, or when that group was formed, you want to find out verbally or maybe written their book interests or their interest in general. Is it science fiction? Do they love reading about animals? Do they love fairy tales and princesses? Whatever book that you choose to teach your standard, try to fit it in. Try to get a book that is aligned to not only their reading level, with a little bit of a challenge there, but to their interest level, so that they will stay interested in the book while they are practicing the skills that they need to hone in on for that particular standard. Now you're ready to pass out the individually level textbooks, and they can begin whisper reading on their own and with a particular job in mind that they're supposed to do. And that will be on my next video. Thank you.